Hey there, and welcome back to Tactical Breach Wizards. My name is Pete, and today we complete episode 5 of this completionist walkthrough on hard difficulty with health cut in half, and we've got a pretty interesting episode on our hands today, which includes a big showdown at the end, as well as the attempt to unlock what is arguably the rarest achievement in the entire game. Now, in the last episode, we learned that our adversary Liv Kennedy and her team of supervillains are taking the chopper to Kalen. We do not know exactly why, and they also haven't left yet, which presents us with the unique opportunity to potentially disrupt their departure. And so we'll meet back with our intrepid heroes Jen, Zan and Dessa Banks as they plan how to best go about business. Alright, if they're taking the chopper to Kalen, they'll be leaving from the southwest facility with the helipad. We've still got no chance against Liv, but if we get there early, we can catch some of her goon squad alone and whittle down their numbers. I thought you already beat that traffic guy back in Stonecliff. Or we didn't kill him. God, don't tell me you're one of those outfits that kills 100 henchmen, then suddenly grows a moral compass when it comes to the f***ers responsible. No, we don't kill henchmen either. No killing. Oh, so you're not hypocrites, you're just toothless all round. Damn right. Liv won't get there till the last minute. She's never early, cause nothing can make her late. The rest of them will rush cause they're terrified of her, so we might be able to catch them at the hangar before she gets there. Then we'd better gear up. Just to check, you are on board with the whole no killing thing, right, Banks? For now. I ask because you are the only one carrying an inherently lethal weapon. My gun? That's a medical instrument. I only use it for cranial interventions. I think cranial interventions are what he's worried about. I don't fire it in combat. I never shoot anyone I can't be sure I'll have a chance to res. Okay, good. Unless I want them to die. I think that's all we're getting, Zan. And with that, we have made it into today's first mission. We've got 4 enemies in the room ahead of us, a heavy gunner, 2 trackers and an officer. The latter should of course not be allowed to sound the alarm, but Jen's confidence goal also demands that we finish this entire affair in one turn, and if we succeed at that, the officer won't even get one. So let's get to it then. We'll start things off by breaching with Dessa, and then we'll move her all the way to the back of the room here. We'll skip grabbing intel with her, instead we'll put a death's door behind the heavy gunner, and then for her second action we'll drop a sedative cocktail on the 2 trackers. That, by the way, is Zan's confidence goal. He wants us to use 5 actions in one turn. So let's make it 3 with him by setting up a predictive bolt to the right side of the officer. A nice setup for Jen, who can now grab the intel and launch a chain bolt, pushing the officer into Zan's shots, the trackers into each other, and the heavy gunner into death's door. That leaves us now with a single tracker who we could simply shoot with Zan's final action, but it's actually very important that we don't do that. Instead, we want to time boost Jen, which then allows her to take the kill shots, and because it was a static blast, she can now move again, hack the laptop, and finish the mission objective on this first turn. This, by the way, might become a recurring theme in the 4 levels that we'll see today. At some points, we do in fact have to be careful not to unleash too much carnage on our enemies, just to remain able to unlock all of those confidence goals. Okay, when we breach, I want you to keep in mind this room is not as scary as it looks. What makes you say that? Blind optimism. Are there heavies? I won't lie, there are a lot of heavies. I hate them. It should be illegal to clip someone if they're in cover. It is illegal, they're trying to kill us. Not in Liboli. If we're trespassing, there's basically nothing they can't do. It's why shady security corps like Reactor love it here. I thought it was mainly the tax breaks. Oh, the tax breaks don't hurt. Alright, interesting setup in this U-shaped room here. To get us started, we've got 4 heavy gunners and a sniper, with more coming in through 2 reinforcement doors. For confidence goals, Zan wants to let a single teammate perform 3 actions in one turn, Jen wants to finish the level by the end of turn 4, and Banks wants to cause 6 total extra knockback by making enemies unsteady. And all of that is doable if we start things off right here. Once again, we'll use a death's door to take out one of the gunners, and we'll make them and their 2 compatriots unsteady by throwing a sedative cocktail. So if we now push each one of them back, that would be 3 extra knockback damage delivered, which already gets us halfway to Dessa's confidence goal. Zan, meanwhile, can take aim at the sniper, which does however not take them out. And just like that, it is now Jen's turn, who can eliminate 3 enemies in one go with a single gale grenade, drastically reducing the number of heavy gunners. So, as you can see, for Dessa's confidence goal, we are up to 3 extra points of knockback. Let us now take out the sniper, and then it is very important that we do not grab the intel with Jen. Instead, we'll simply use her bonus movement to advance a bit further, but stay out of the gunner's line of sight, while Zan overwatches the reinforcement door here. So, that is one more heavy gunner prevented from entering the fight. Lovely. On this turn then, we will focus on completing Zan's and Dessa's confidence goals. To get us started on that effort, we will grab the intel here with Zan, then move Jen a bit further towards the back of the room, and then we'll use Banks' action to throw a sedative cocktail. With Jen's Gale Grenade, we can now grab 2 extra points of knockback. However, before we throw it, let's set up Zan's Predictive Bolt, so that he gets an extra point of mana from taking out the tracker. So, knockback-wise, we are now at 5, however, all of our wizards have only performed 1 action so far, a fact that we are going to change here in just a second, as Zan actually now has 2 points of mana, and that means 2 uses of the Time Boost ability, and we're giving them both to Dessa. I'll explain the reason for that in just a moment. For now, let's have Zan take aim at the heavy gunner. That delivers 1 more point of knockback damage and thus completes Banks' confidence goal, and with that, Jen's Static Blast can now remove the final 2 hit points. With her bonus move, she can then also seal the reinforcement door over here, and we are now out of enemies, but Dessa is the only one in our squad who does not actually need enemies to perform actions. She can simply throw drugs 2 more times, nobody gets hurt, and Zan's confidence goal is complete. On turn number 3 then, 1 more tracker appears, but that should not pose too much of a threat. 1 more sedative cocktail to weaken them, and then Banks can move in and seal the reinforcement door. And thanks to the extra knockback, 1 shot from Zan will finish the job. And there we go, finished in 3 turns instead of 4 with all confidence goals completed. But like I said in that first level, without abusing Dessa's sedative cocktail here, we may have actually moved a bit too fast to unlock all confidence goals in one go. Oh, I don't like this. When I foresee breaching this room, they target me with something and the vision just kind of stops there. Well, that sounds like a neutralizer. Banks and I hit one when we were getting her Arcana. Reactor have anti-magic tech? I don't love that. They can't stop you throwing stuff at least. No one can stop you throwing stuff. There's a guy in Juang who can make your arms go limp, but only after eating a lot of celeriac, and he has to stare at the floor the whole time. I don't think we'll run into him. Instead, we are about to run into a room that should be easy with only 2 enemies in it. However, there is no intel available, and one of those enemies is a neutralizer. And well, if things look easy, then Jen certainly gets ambitious. Once again, she wants to finish the level in just 1 turn. Banks also wants us to use her transference ability to transfer 4 points of damage at once, and so we'll actually get things started with her, although after breaching, as you can see here, most of her abilities are disabled, as the neutralizer has taken her into their sights. But, just like Jen said, you can't stop people from throwing stuff, and so a sedative cocktail lands right between our 2 foes. Afterwards then, we want to move in with Jen to focus the neutralizer's attention on her, as this will now allow Zan to move in without getting targeted. Just like trackers, the neutralizers will always pick the closest target, and so Zan can now freely shoot them. So that leaves us now with 1 enemy, but also with 2 reinforcement doors that we somehow need to block off in this turn. Now the first is easy, Static Blast followed by a bonus move gets us there. For the second one, however, we need to get a bit creative. For this one, we'll make use of the fact that Jen now has 2 Gale Grenades, allowing her to push Dessa the extra 2 tiles she needs to go. All that is left now is to transfer those 4 points of damage, and we can do so by casting Transference on Banks herself, forcing the heavy gunner, who deals 8 points of damage with a single shot, to take themselves out. And there we go, all done in just 1 turn, however, once again showcasing the need to go deep in that bag of tricks, but at least for me, that is what I love about this game. My question about the celeriac guy, I think he'd probably want to be known as the limp arms guy. I don't think anyone wants to be known as the limp arms guy. My question is, how did he unlock? When would you ever desperately need to make someone's arms go limp? Maybe someone he didn't like was carrying something he wanted to break. Okay, but that's want. To unlock, you've got to need it. Maybe someone was carrying him, away from his beloved celeriac. We don't even know if he likes celeriac, maybe he hates it. Oh my god, now I'm sad about Limp Arms Guy. I was never not sad about Limp Arms Guy. Should we breach this door and stop World War V, or should we write a book about Limp Arms Guy? Breach, I guess. And breaching, we will do all 3 of our wizards from the same door into a room that has quite a few more of those, 4 reinforcement doors to be exact, as well as another neutralizer, heavy gunner and a tracker. Now, with 4 reinforcement doors, preventing 9 reinforcements in total to complete Zan's confidence goal should not be too difficult, so for the most part here we'll focus on Jen's goal to defenestrate 2 hostiles in 1 turn. So, as she breaches, the neutralizer immediately locks onto her. However, that does not stop her from moving into the room and grabbing the intel. It also does not prevent her from using the Gale Grenade, and at this point we can now move in with Odessa, who becomes the neutralizer's new target, but that's perfectly fine. For now we just need her to throw some drugs. Finally then, it's Zan's turn, who will only move before we go back to Jen, who is now actually going to push Zan forward using Chain Bolt, while also completing her confidence goal and pushing 2 other enemies out of the window. That leaves us with only 1, at least for the moment, an easy target for Zan. Now, we do not technically have a time limit for this mission, still it might be prudent to seal as many of those reinforcement doors before the end of the turn, so let's do something slightly unconventional here. We'll give an extra action to Jen, who can then static blast Zan. Now, this does cause Zan to take 1 point of damage, but he can now also seal the reinforcement door. In addition, he can also lay down a predictive bolt towards door number 2, and because Jen just used Static Blast, she can move again as well. And not only does this allow her to get over to the intel here, but with another Gale Grenade, she can actually seal a reinforcement door herself. That, however, is all that we can do on this turn. It should make things nice and easy on the next one though. And indeed, there we go, Zan takes out another heavy gunner, leaving only a single tracker to take out. First of all though, let's use Zan to seal door number 3. Then we'll move Dessa to place a death's door behind the tracker, and finally Jen can push them into it. She can also still move afterwards to seal the last reinforcement door, and with that we have just completed this in 2 turns. I think that's the best you can do here, but let me know in the comments if you can think of a way to finish it in 1. "30 minutes early, Bori? Someone's anxious to impress the boss. She says H-5, I don't know what this means." It means 5 hours out. Did you think it was minutes? "You're early also." "That's not... I just had some packing to do." "You'll pack things from the hangar?" "Yes, I was low on... spanners." Alright, the clowns are in the roost. Jen, if we get caught by Bori's fire, anything we can do? Magical fire can burn on anything, but if it's not a fuel source, it takes focus to keep it going. The mana stockpile and Rushwater seem to burn fine without him. Then I guess that's a fuel source. But people are just sacks of blood. It's hard to keep a fire going on that. So if he goes down, we stop burning. Best guess. Or I could just res you. Oh right, we also have a Necromancer. Necromantic. What about this traffic guy? He just summons ghost cars, it's honestly not much of a problem. Bring it on, Callan. Shit. Really good hearing though, I forgot about that. And so here we are for the big showdown. It seems like we have outsmarted Liv Kennedy for once, and we've caught Steve the Traffic Warlock and Bori Kesh the Less Lethal Pyromancer all by themselves. Well, not entirely, they also have a neutralizer and a turret in the room with them, not to mention that there are also 2 reinforcement doors, so it's safe to say that this one we will most likely not finish in just 1 or 2 turns. We also have an interesting set of confidence goals here. After the number was just 5 a few levels back, now Zan wants us to use 9 different abilities in 1 single turn, the focus point here being on different abilities. Jen stays true to herself and wants to knock Steve into a death's door, while Dessa wants to use the resurrect ability on a teammate who has no mana left. All of that, and we also have to worry about Steve, and probably much more pressingly so, about Bori Kesh, the Less Lethal Pyromancer. He's got 15 hit points, 4 of which contribute to his gas masked ability, and as long as he still have those 4, he will be immune to Dessa's sedative. Also, he is fireproof, but that does not come as too much of a surprise, I think. Which brings me then to the oh-so-elusive achievement I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because in this fight we are somehow trying to get Steve to hit the Pyromancer with his Ghost Traffic ability. Achieving that unlocks one of Tactical Breach Wizard's hidden achievements, and well, let's just say that it makes what is on this difficulty already a tricky fight even more difficult, especially if you're also trying to complete all confidence goals. However, that is the completionist way, that is why you're watching Pete complete, so let's get to it. To get us started, we'll have Banks breach and throw a sedative cocktail at Steve. Then we move in with Jen and take note of the neutralizer now targeting her, which means Zan can now move in too and shoot them, which will push the neutralizer into the fire and take them out. So far so good, that still leaves us with these two guys and the turret. And remember, it won't be enough to just take them out, we need to be very specific in the way we do it. So, after grabbing the intel with Jen, let's chug a Gale Grenade. That gets Steve moving in the right direction and most importantly away from us. With Jen, who can still move, we are then going to grab the intel over on the right side of the room here. Zan will do the same, and because the Pyromancer's Maltfire throw will target anyone, even behind cover, the only way to guarantee that we do not take damage here is to send out the decoy, the False Prophet now the target of both Bori Kesh and the turret. And we can actually use the fact that the turret is locked onto it to our advantage by making Dessa transfer the turret's damage onto the Pyromancer. And that, I think, is it for the end of this first turn. Yes, we still have an action left with Jen here, but that would not get us anywhere close to the 9 required to complete Zan's confidence goal. In fact, it might actually be counterproductive to use it at the moment. So, there we go, the turret fires first, meaning Bori Kesh instead of our decoy loses 4 hit points. Conveniently enough, that also removes his gas mask. However, his fire throw and the Traffic Warlock's Ghost Traffic are then more than enough to take care of our Prophet. Steve then also unfortunately moves far away from Bori, not to mention that a neutralizer and a heavy gunner have reinforced our enemies, so while we have not suffered any damage yet, we also haven't really done a good job dealing it. However, for achievement purposes, it is also somewhat necessary to keep both Steve and Bori alive for a little while. On this turn then, I think we'll actually be able to manage what we're looking for. Gale Grenade number 2 gets Steve into position, while a Broom Breach does the same for Jen, who has all of a sudden popped up behind enemy lines. Now, to get away from both Ghost Traffic and the grenade and to target the Pyromancer, we'll move one tile with Zan here, and then we'll lay down a Predictive Bolt. You might already see where this is going, which will then be followed by Chain Bolt, targeting first the Heavy Gunner, then the Pyromancer, and finally the Neutralizer. Just like that, Bori is now down to 6 hit points, and Zan has gained another point of mana. Once again though, in terms of actions, we are nowhere near close enough on this turn to complete his confidence goal. Meanwhile, on the damage dealing side, we're actually making huge progress, and we're about to do some more, as Banks now hacks the turret and then throws a second sedative cocktail at Steve. If thrown right at a target, the sedative deals 1 point of knockback, now boosted to 2, and so, even though we used a good chunk of abilities to set it up, Traffic Warlock and Pyromancer are now both exactly where we want them to be. One more shot at Bori Kesh then for good measure, but that ends our turn, as we are about to unlock the Look Both Ways achievement. So the turret takes out the Heavy Gunner, Bori throws some mild fire at Jen, and Steve's Ghost Traffic then takes out the turret and almost the Pyromancer too. This now unlocks the Look Both Ways achievement, which according to my Steam stats only 2.5% of players currently have. At this point then, the situation looks a little bit more manageable, even though we need to take note of the fact that we have not yet completed a single confidence goal and that Jen is currently on fire, mild fire that is, which means that for everything she does on this turn, action, movement, what have you, she will lose a hit point. In other words, she can do exactly one thing before the next move will kill her. And while we do have a Necromantic in our ranks, her resurrection abilities are limited to a rather short range, so let's use the second charge of her Broom Breach ability to get Jen a lot closer. By doing so, she now also immediately loses that 1 hit point, but for now she is not dead yet, and it's actually important that it stays that way, as we are now looking to unlock a second achievement. In order to be able to do that though, let us first shoot the neutralizer with Zan, and then we'll switch it over to Banks, who can now move and seal off the first reinforcement door. And to complete both her confidence goal as well as the This Might Sting achievement, we are now going to use the Resurrect ability on a still standing Jen, and this goes exactly as one would expect. So Jen is shot dead and then resurrected, no longer burning and now also in the possession of 1 point of mana. Let us now work on Jen's confidence goal, which also has an achievement tied to it. We'll have Dessa place a Death's Door right behind Steve. This, by the way, brings us up to 4 different abilities used on this turn, and we still have actions left for Dessa and Jen. So let's use the one on Banks to throw a sedative cocktail at the Pyromancer, before we then move and lay down a predictive bolt with Zan. All of this, of course, entirely unnecessary if we just wanted to take Bori Kesh out here, but on this turn we are trying to use as many abilities as possible. And that also includes Jen's Chain Bolt, which we can now target first at the Gunner, then at Steve to push him into the Death's Door, and finally at our Less Lethal Pyromancer. So that would be the Improvised Window achievement unlocked. The Pyromancer Bori Kesh is also down, which has earned Zan another point of mana, and at this point his confidence goal is the only thing still left to complete. However, for the 4th achievement of this level, we actually want to perform 10 instead of the required 9 actions on this turn. Now, a time boost gets us up to 8, and a static blast from Jen will make it 9, with the target curiously being Zan instead of the last enemy. Why? Well, because this has just pushed Zan into range to use his False Prophet, and because we have grabbed the Useful Fiction upgrade, our decoy can now seal off the second reinforcement door. And this now makes it 10 different abilities used on this turn, unlocking the Swiss Army Knife achievement. And conveniently enough, the False Prophet will also draw the Heavy Gunner's attention, so we won't need to worry about that, can grab the intel here with Jen and end our turn. So then, turn 4, and quite clearly I think this is going to be the last one, and I'm going to show you a little trick here to take out the Heavy Gunner. Normally, you can't target Predictive Bolt down the tiles where an enemy is already standing. However, you can do so if an ally is standing between Zan and the enemy. And if that ally is Jen, then you can simply move her into position, fire off a Static Blast and move again, and as a result, Zan will fire his Predictive Bolt immediately. So all that is left to do at this point is to move Banks out of the grenade's explosion radius and the mission is done. And with that we have defeated 1/2 of Liv Kennedy's team, and I'd like to think that we've done so in the most complete way possible. Looking at the mission time, however, I think you can clearly see that it took me a little while to get all of this sorted out. Of the 32 minutes I needed to get this just right, you saw only 9. Alright then, looks like our non-lethal ways are being punished immediately here, as Liv Kennedy is, as always, superhumanly quick on the scene to snatch up both Bori and Steve, so all we really get out of this mission is a single perk point for Dessa Banks. And well, let's spend that perk point, as usual though no guarantee that we'll actually stick with the ability we select here. Although I believe I did already have my eye on this at the end of the 3rd episode, let's give Banks an extra use of the Death's Door ability. I simply feel like this is one of the most powerful things she has in her arsenal, so giving her the ability to use it twice per level does make some sense in my eyes. Once again though, after having some time to think about it in between episodes, we might very well change this up again at the beginning of the next one. For the moment though, let's lock it in and have a look at outfits. After completing every single confidence goal available in this video, we have a few new things to unlock. First of all, let us give Zan the Hedge Wizard outfit. Now I think he neatly matches looks with Jungle Tracker Jen, and Banks is also due for a makeover. From Funeral to Frontier, that is now her 3rd outfit unlocked as well. And I think this marks a good point to make the cut for today. To me, that last fight in particular was an absolute blast to figure out, and let me just say that things will get more interesting in the future. So I hope you join me for that, and I also hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.